Hey guys, this is Gabin once again, and I'm here to help you answering the quiz number one. Right, so a few days ago, about 4 days ago, I shared this quiz with you, and so I thought it would be nice to give you solutions for those who cannot or who couldn't solve them. So the question was solve for x, right? So another way of saying another word for solve is could be something like find the value of x, or maybe simplify simplify the following equation, right? So now, given that the question asks us to solve for x, it says finding the value of x, finding the value of x. So we are trying to find the value of x, and the way I prefer to do this is by understanding what we have. This is an equation, right? Equation have got two side, right, left hand side and right hand side. So most of the time when I'm solving for x, I prefer to isolate x on the left hand side and have the coefficient or terms on other terms or numbers on the right hand side. So that's what I'm going to do here. You can see this sign. This sign is an equivalent sign, right? Meaning the question is equivalent to my next line, or whatever I'm gonna write under here should also equal to the top one. It's just a simplified version of the first line, right? So here, the way I would do, I would copy exactly the same, plus one, leave a gap, 2. Now I'm gonna do this minus 1, minus 1. The reason I'm doing this is because we are trying to isolate x. So the way to isolate x is actually get rid of any number that is on the left hand side, right? So the way you get rid of these numbers is by this number was plus 1. Now we are doing this number was plus 1. Now we are doing minus 1 on both sides. What you do on the left, we have to do exactly the same thing on the right, and that's what I'm doing. So here, this number and this will cancel each other, and then on my next line I'm going to have x squared being equal to 2 minus 1 is just 2 minus 1 is just 1. This part is done, right? So I've got x squared equals 1. Now this is the crucial part here, because you can guess the number. You can guess the number. There are not many options. There are only few options with this one, because we know this number when it comes by itself equals to 1. And given that 1 is already involved, so we have an idea that one of these numbers should be 1. But then, well, the other number. So we know that anything times by 1 is always give you that number itself. That means the other number must be 1, right? Must be 1. So you could guess that as 1 being one of the solution. But are there many solutions, or are there more solutions than 1, or is just 1, right? So that's the question that we are going to answer, and that's the hardest part of this question, right? So because we have got this power here changes things. This power here is an even number. 2 is an even number. What if that power was an odd number? What could have happened? So however, in this case, because we have got even number, what it means is when we are trying to get rid of that square, is you're gonna take square root of 2 squared, which what you do on the left, you have to do exactly the same thing on the right. So square root of 1 on both sides. Now, because the 2 is an even number, you always have to have plus or minus. Plus or minus, we are going to see why plus or minus. However, you can agree with me that square root of x squared is the same as x to the power of 2 on 2, which still give us plus or minus 1. Now, x to the power of 2 on 2, 2 on 2 is just 1, x to the power of 1 just that. So x equals plus or minus 1. Now, let me explain to you why we have got plus or minus 1. It's because let's look at it. Let's look at it this way. So example, let's walk through this. So if x equals to 1, then you have 1 times 1 equals to 1, which makes sense. But what if x was minus 1? Then you have minus 1 times minus 1 equals to 1. So you can see that the answers are still the same. So it's hard because two negative numbers times by when you times two negative numbers, you always end up with a positive number. And given that, we can have a negative 1 times negative 1, so you have positive 1. And that's the reason why we always have plus or minus 1 when we have got an even power. But what if that was odd power? Let's say it was x to the power 3, and then what would be the answer? The answer would just be 1, because when you take if x equals 1, then you have 1 times 1, 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. But now what if x equals negative 1? If x equals negative 1, then you have negative 1 times by negative 1 times by negative 1. It just equals negative 1, which is not equal to 2 when you plus 1. So that's the reason why our answer is plus or minus 1, is because of the even number we have as a power, right? So I hope this makes sense. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for this particular question that we're given. Remember, it's plus or minus 1 whenever we have an even power, right? So that's it for this one. I'm gonna do question B. But this was just question A. All right, so see you soon.